What if I told you that the financial advice your parents gave you, the exact same playbook they used to build their wealth, buy their home, and retire comfortably, is the precise reason you are struggling to get ahead today? You did everything right. You listened to your mom and dad. You went to college, you got the stable job, you saved your money, you avoided debt. And yet, when you look at your bank account, when you look at the housing market, when you look at the cost of simply existing in 2026, you feel like you are running on a treadmill that is slowly speeding up. You are not crazy. You are not bad with money. You are just playing a 1980s board game in a 2026 casino. The rules of money have fundamentally changed, but nobody told you.
The strategies that created the American middle class have been quietly rendered obsolete by macroeconomic shifts, asset inflation, and a completely rewritten social contract. Today, we are going to systematically dismantle the 7 biggest pieces of boomer financial advice that are actively keeping you broke. We are going to look at the hard data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Federal Reserve, and decades of market history to prove why the old way is dead. And more importantly, I am going to show you the new math, the exact strategies you need to adopt right now to actually build wealth in this unforgiving economy, including the #1 piece of traditional advice that mathematically destroys your net worth faster than anything else. If you have ever felt like you are doing everything right but still falling behind, this video is your wake-up call. My name is Guru, and it is time to unlearn everything you were taught about money. Let us start by understanding the battlefield. To understand why your parents' advice is failing you, you have to understand the economic reality they lived in versus the one you are living in right now. In 1985, the median home price in the United States was roughly 3 times the median household income. A single income could comfortably buy a house, raise a family, and fund a pension. Fast forward to 2026. According to the National Association of Realtors and recent census data, the median home price is now pushing 7 to 8 times the median income in most major metropolitan areas. Meanwhile, the purchasing power of the US dollar has been systematically eroded. The cost of the 3 pillars of middle-class life, housing, healthcare, and higher education, has not just outpaced inflation, it has completely detached from wage growth. According to the Economic Policy Institute, while worker productivity has grown over 60% since 1979, typical worker compensation has only grown by about 15%. Your parents were playing a game where the wind was at their backs. You are playing a game where the wind is a Category 5 hurricane blowing directly in your face. When they tell you to just save harder, they are applying a 1980s solution to a 2026 structural crisis. Let us break down the myths, one by one, starting with the most expensive piece of advice ever given to the American working class. Myth number 1, go to college, at any cost. For 2 generations, a university degree was marketed as the ultimate golden ticket. Your parents saw their peers with degrees instantly secure middle-class salaries, so they told you to take out the loans, get the piece of paper, and your future earnings would easily cover the debt. Here is the brutal reality of 2026. The cost of higher education has exploded by over 1,200% since the 1980s, vastly outpacing both inflation and wage growth. According to the Federal Reserve, Americans are now carrying over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. But the real tragedy is the collapsed return on investment. Unless you are graduating with a specialized STEM degree, nursing, or accounting from a reasonably priced state school, the math simply does not work. You are taking on $60, $80, sometimes $100,000 in non-dischargeable debt to secure a starting salary of $45,000. The old advice assumed a massive wage premium for simply having a bachelor's degree. Today, degree inflation has rendered the bachelor's degree the new high school diploma. The new math dictates that you must treat education like a business investment, not a coming-of-age experience. You calculate the exact starting salary of your major, You cap your total student loans at no more than your expected first-year salary, and you ruthlessly exploit community colleges, state schools, and skill-based certifications. If the math does not pencil out, the degree is a liability, not an asset. This brings us to myth number 2, the holy grail of the American dream. Buy a house as soon as possible. Your parents view renting as throwing money away. In their era, buying a home was a forced savings account that practically guaranteed wealth accumulation through steady appreciation. But let us look at the 2026 housing market. The price-to-income ratio is at historic, unsustainable highs. When you buy a house today, you are not just buying shelter, you are buying at the peak of an asset bubble fueled by institutional investors, corporate landlords, and chronic underbuilding.
Furthermore, the hidden costs of homeownership have skyrocketed. Property taxes are surging as local governments face budget deficits. Homeowners' insurance premiums in states like Florida, Texas, and California have doubled or tripled in just the last few years due to climate risks and reinsurance market collapses. Add in maintenance, landscaping, and sudden special assessments, and the old 1% rule of home maintenance is dead. The new reality is that a house is a consumption item first and an investment second. The new math requires you to run a ruthless cash flow analysis. If the monthly cost of owning, including taxes, insurance, maintenance, and the opportunity cost of your down payment, exceeds the cost of renting a comparable property by more than 20%, you are better off renting and investing the difference in the stock market. Do not let emotional attachment to the American dream force you into a negative cash flow trap. Now, let us talk about myth number 3. Save 10% of your paycheck and put it in a high-yield savings account. Your parents were taught that cash is king and debt is the devil. They believed that if you just steadily hoarded cash, you would be safe. But in a fiat currency system where central banks target a 2% inflation rate and often overshoot it, cash is not king. Cash is a melting ice cube. If you are keeping massive amounts of your net worth in a standard savings account, you are mathematically guaranteeing the erosion of your purchasing power. The old advice failed to account for the silent tax of inflation and a concept called financial repression, where interest rates are intentionally kept near or below the real rate of inflation to silently wipe out consumer debt. While your parents were earning 5% interest in the 1980s, today's interest rates are constantly battling real-world inflation that eats into groceries, services, and assets. The new paradigm is not about saving cash. It is about acquiring cash-flowing assets. You need an emergency fund, absolutely. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield account is non-negotiable for your psychological and financial safety. But every dollar beyond that emergency fund must be deployed into assets that have pricing power. Equities, real estate, or businesses that can raise their prices in tandem with inflation. You cannot save your way to wealth in 2026. You can only invest your way there. Myth number 4 is perhaps the most damaging to your career trajectory. Climb the corporate ladder and stay loyal to one company. Your parents' generation valued loyalty. You stayed at the same firm for 30 years, you got the gold watch, and you received a defined benefit pension. Today, corporate loyalty is a financial death sentence. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and numerous compensation studies, employees who stay at the same company for more than 2 years get paid 50% less over their lifetime compared to those who strategically job hop. Annual merit raises are typically capped at 2 to 4%, barely keeping up with inflation. Meanwhile, switching jobs often yields a 10 to 20% salary bump. The modern corporation views labor as a line item expense to be optimized, often utilizing AI and automation to do more with less. Furthermore, the shift from defined benefit pensions to defined contribution 401k plans quietly shifted all the market risk from the corporation onto your shoulders. The new math requires you to view yourself as a mercenary, a free agent operating a business of one. You must constantly update your skills, network outside your current company, and be willing to walk away the moment your compensation no longer matches the market rate. Loyalty to a corporation is a one-way street. Your loyalty must be to your own earning potential and your family's financial security. This leads us to myth number 5.
Avoid debt at all costs. Your parents were terrified of debt. They paid off their cars in 3 years and avoided credit cards like the plague. But this black and white view of debt ignores one of the most powerful wealth-building tools used by the ultra-rich: leverage. There is bad debt and there is good debt. Bad debt is consumer debt. It is the 22% APR credit card balance you use to buy a depreciating liability like a designer wardrobe or a vacation you could not afford. That debt is a wealth destroyer. But good debt is leverage. It is borrowing money at a fixed interest rate to acquire an appreciating, cash-flowing asset.
If you can borrow money at 6% to buy a rental property or a business that yields a 12% cash-on-cash return, the debt is paying for itself and generating a spread. In an inflationary environment, debt actually becomes cheaper over time because you are paying back the loan with future, inflated dollars. The wealthy do not avoid debt, they master it. They use it to acquire assets while preserving their own cash for liquidity and emergencies. The middle class avoids debt and uses their cash to buy liabilities. You must learn the difference. Myth number 6. Retire at 65 and play golf. The traditional retirement model was built on a 3-legged stool: a corporate pension, Social Security, and personal savings. Today, pensions are virtually extinct for the private sector. Social Security is facing structural insolvency and potential benefit cuts within the next decade. And the traditional 4% rule of retirement withdrawal is under severe stress due to increased longevity and sequence of returns risk. Furthermore, healthcare costs in retirement are astronomical. Fidelity Investments estimates that an average retired couple will need over $300,000 just to cover out-of-pocket healthcare expenses in retirement, and that does not include long-term care. The idea that you can completely stop working at 65 and live off a static portfolio for 30 years is a mathematical fantasy for most Americans. The new paradigm is semi-retirement, or coast fire. It is about building a portfolio large enough to cover your basic survival expenses and then transitioning to low-stress, passion-driven work that covers your lifestyle and keeps your mind engaged. You are not working to survive. You are working because you choose to. This removes the immense pressure of having to save an impossible nest egg and allows you to enjoy your life today while still building for tomorrow. Finally, we arrive at myth number 7. The ultimate trap. The piece of advice that sounds the most virtuous, but is mathematically the most destructive in the modern economy. Just work harder, get a side hustle, and spend less than you earn. This is the ultimate gaslight of the 2026 economy. Your parents tell you that if you were broke, it is because you were buying too many lattes and avocado toast. They tell you to hustle harder. But you cannot budget your way out of a broken macroeconomic system. When the cost of housing, childcare, and healthcare absorbs 80% of your take-home pay, skipping a $5 coffee is not going to make you a millionaire. This advice places the blame entirely on your personal discipline, ignoring the systemic wealth extraction happening at the top. It leads to burnout, exhaustion, and the hustle culture trap, where you trade your health and your time for marginal gains. The new math is not about extreme frugality. It is about asymmetric upside. It is about focusing your energy on increasing your primary income through high-leverage skills. It is about building scalable assets that disconnect your time from your income. You do not need to save $50 a week. You need to figure out how to add $50,000 to your top-line revenue. Stop playing defense and start playing offense. The reality of 2026 is that the financial playbook was rewritten while you were sleeping. The systems that rewarded your parents are now designed to extract wealth from you. But once you see the matrix for what it is, you can stop playing their game and start playing your own. You now know the truth. The old rules are dead, and the new math is the only way forward. You need a concrete, step-by-step blueprint to restructure your finances and start acquiring cash-flowing assets. That is exactly what I break down in this video right here, where I reveal the exact order you need to invest your money in 2026 to build an impenetrable financial fortress.
Click right here, and I will see you in the next one.